when you chase a butterfly, it will run away. But if you build a garden, it will come to you. At least for me, I guess I started to win more in life when I grew up and found out it wasn't about me. That's also the best way to take care of yourself by taking care of others. That's actually one of the most selfish things you can do.
Welcome to this podcast interview, our very first on the Global Pack Show. Before we get started, let me invite every single one of you, if you've not already done so, please make sure to click on the subscribe button. That will help us tremendously in terms of growing this platform and reaching the goals that we have set for ourselves in 2025. We have no doubt that this platform will take off and will reach greater heights this year. 3 weeks ago, when we launched this new live podcast, I promise you that we will prepare a series of exciting guests that will bring us their experience, their entrepreneurship experience. Well, that time has finally arrived. Tonight, we have a very special guest. I consider him to be a very, very special individual, and I'm sure that at the end of this conversation, you would certainly agree with me. It so happens also that he is a member of the Global PAC, the Global Pan African Community. As you know, the mission of this show is to build bridges and strong coalitions so that we can raise the image and change the narrative for people of African descent, but also people in continental Africa. All right. Well, let me go right ahead and bring the guest that I promised you who will be joining me tonight. His name is Napo Ghonda. I will let him introduce himself, but just know that he is an entrepreneur who has a very interesting story, and I will let him talk about it. We have a conversation, and by the end of this evening, as I said before, I believe that you will be inspired because he's a very inspirational individual. Napo, welcome to the Global
Well,
Connection.
thank you for the good introduction, Tony. And I appreciate the opportunity to be on the show with you today.
No, it's a pleasure. Well, I know you, but for those out there who might not know who you are, how would you introduce yourself? Who is Napo?
So, who am I? That's a great question. So, you talked about, African descent. So, I was born in the Congo in Kinshasa. Came to the U.S. Early 1980s. I was gonna say 80s, but I was born in the 1900s. And so yeah, so came to the U.S. Went to school in East Coast. I guess always wanted to figure out. I was always interested in learning, right? Always, well, part of it is probably because my parents just dropped me off at the library as a kid, but that's to learn. But yeah, so I always reading, learning, and yeah, at an early age, we had computers in the house, and I remember, that I was using them just to figure out how to play games, right? So that was really my big motivation, and that's how I really started to learn computers. And like I started, taking them apart and doing a bunch of different things. And I remember one time, like I took it apart, and I'm like, oh crap, I have to figure out how to put it back together before Dad gets home, right? So motivation to make sure that okay, I put the computer back
Before you get a
yeah,
serious whooping,
exactly,
as we say.
exactly, right? So
Right.
my desire for wanting to play and do stuff in the digital space actually got me to want to learn more about computers, how they work. They actually forced me to learn more because back in the day you had to go through DOS, you had to do this, you had to do that. I really started to learn computers, you know, because I wanted to have fun with them. But then the other piece too, going back to the reading, is I was, very interested in science fiction, reading books like the ones from like Isaac Asimov, like I, Robot, and things like that. So as I started going to school, I wanted to go for robotics actually, right? And it's funny that now AI is a huge thing, and that's something that I wanted to do a long time ago, but it wasn't really a big thing at that point. So I ended up settling, I guess you could say, for computer science at the time. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey because I started out startup, then went corporate, then now business owner, entrepreneur, if you want to call it that. Uh, so yeah, so it's been a interesting journey, but I'm excited to where I'm at today.
Okay. Well, you know what? One of the things on this show, Napa, as I mentioned when we started, I just one of the goals is really show to folks out there within our community and so on that different paths may lead to success, right? And entrepreneurship happens to be one of those paths. So here it's interesting, given how you mentioned the upbringing with going with the library. So it sounds like you may have started as a bit of a nerd, huh? When you're a little kid, but
Yeah, well, it wasn't the
but as you
nerd. I
think,
like to learn, but
okay,
I think that my parents also prioritized learning
hmm,
and knowledge. So it's like, yeah, the free time, like, yeah, go find something to read, go learn something. So
okay,
as I started to find the things that I was interested in, that actually, snowballed there, I guess you could say.
okay. So now, what would you say when it comes to entrepreneurship then? Because you mentioned breaking the computers, your interest in reading and your curiosity and so on, and then you started in the startup with the startup. So did you always know from
Hmm,
early on that you
maybe,
wanted to be an
but
entrepreneur?
because my first business,
Uh-huh.
um, I hung blow pops at school. So, I think I was in middle school. I was like, I don't know, 12, 13, 14. I went to local Stop and Shop, you know, bought some blow pops for 10 cents.
Oh,
You
okay.
know,
Uh-huh.
came back to the park, hanging out with friends. Somebody like, oh, can I have that? And I was like, sure, I'll give it to you for 25 cents. And he's like, okay, here's a quarter. I was like, oh, I like this. And I went back and I got two and still have some change, right? And then I was like, okay, I can actually do something with this. And then that became a thing. So I started at the Stop and Shop first. And then as I started getting more and more, my mom used to take me to BJ's Wholesale so I could buy the boxes of blow pops in bulk. And then I'd have my backpack when I would go to school so I could have more margin. So that's actually
Wow.
where you get entrepreneurship journey started. So it was just, you know, I saw that, yeah, you can do stuff and add value to other people if hey, you have the stuff right there for them, they're willing to pay for it, right? If
Hmm.
it's you're giving them something of value and then they're willing to exchange money for it. So that's, I think, the beginning of the entrepreneurship. But I feel also as I went into my career more, starting to see the things that I could do and I was executing them for other people, I think over time I started to say, yes, I can do the same thing for myself.
Gotcha. Well, that's interesting. So I guess Warren Buffett had the paper route and Napo had the blow pops. That's how.
I actually had a paper route too.
Oh, you had a paper route too. There you go. See?
No, it's funny because middle school, I used to deliver newspapers in the morning before school. So I used to ride my bike, drop them off, and during the day school, I had to blow pop. So yeah, so I was definitely, you know, trying to figure out how to earn. And, I had that, I guess, that hustle.
Okay.
So, yeah, so it was just one of those things that, I guess going back, maybe the parents instilled in me to actually go out and get it. And I shouldn't say maybe, because, my parents and might be similar with your parents always brought stuff for back home from Africa, and then sometimes from here would bring stuff back over there and resell. So like I would see that all the time, right?
Okay.
So it's probably, how they say not more is caught than taught,
That is correct.
right?
Uh-huh.
So I would probably see that and see, okay, that there's more to it than just, going to work for others. So
That is interesting that you mentioned that. So I might be wrong, but it sounds like maybe entrepreneurship wasn't a formal thing, right? That you would say your parents just systematically taught you, but it was through the example, just kind of seeing what they're doing and kind of being around that sort of sentiment that the whole spirit might have come. So, with that in mind, we sometimes hear some of these entrepreneurs, whether it's the ones that are really acclaimed, the Buffett's, the Steve Jobs, and so on, who say they had some inspirational figures or even some mentors, right, that kind of showed them the way or inspired them, formally or informally. So, aside from your parents, like when you look back, do you have any such person in your life that would say, you know what,
From a business
from
standpoint,
from a business standpoint, that you would say, you know what, that was an inspiration, or maybe formal mentorship? Was there any such situations for you?
no, I don't know if there was a specific, like growing up,
Mhm.
like a mentor, but because I was in the computer space, there was always like the Jobs, the Gates, and those guys are like, oh yeah, it's great to possibly do stuff like they did. Um, but even I would say like when I was younger, no, there wasn't really like a person that says, yes, okay, they do this. I want to be like them. So, and I guess for me, from a role model, I don't know if there's a specific person, but going back to the reading, I had gotten into history and all that stuff, and you read about the greats, right? Or like the go back to Alexander the Great or Napoleon or all these things, and the Marcus Aureliuses and all that stuff, and you read about the things that people accomplished, right? And I guess for me, the motivation was that they're people too,
Ah,
right?
okay.
They're people. There's many other people have been able to do it, right? Or do great things or accomplish things with their lives. They're human just like me, right? So from a business standpoint, I don't know if there's specific role models, um, but now I do say I do have, I guess you can call it virtual mentors.
Okay.
So there is people that I listen to regularly, I guess to help from a mindset standpoint.
Okay.
Um, I think a while back when I got into more my personal growth and personal development journey, I think it started a lot with Eric Thomas, and it was just more about grinding, get up, grind, get up, grind, get up, grind.
Okay.
Um, but now I would say I have a plethora of digital mentors. So if you look at my YouTube list, I have a list for John. I have a list for Les. I have a list for Sad Guru. Like so, I have my first name. So when I want to go listen to somebody, right? That's kind of how I have it. Or like Jocko. So like Jocko Willink, who's a former Navy SEAL, right? So now there's I go and look to people who have the characteristics and have accomplished some of the things that I would love. Or, for example, one of them is my friend, right? Or he's John Maxwell. He said, "Hey, I'm John. I'm your friend." At the end of all his stuff, right? So,
Okay.
yeah. So there's a lot of when you talk about mentors, right? I think now I have a lot more that I actually tap into and listen to. So, for example, to John Maxwell, he talks about leadership and being able to build leaders that can grow other leaders that add value to others.
Ah, wow. Grow leaders that add values to others.
Yes, because
Wow.
that's our
Okay.
mission. Yeah, right. Because if you're not building other leaders, especially let's say in a business community, after you as a leader is gone, there's nothing there.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Right. And I'm sure if you look at, a lot of businesses or a lot of family businesses, it's like, okay, once the person who started it is gone, it's gone,
Mm.
right? Because they haven't taken the time to actually foster um, that leadership aspect, right? So with Jocko, for example, he talks about the path. right? What are the things you need to do about the path? This big thing is discipline equals freedom, right? And he takes the learnings from war and applies and takes those principles and brings it out and say, hey, if you apply these principles, you can win at life, right? Is principle driven, right? Or my friend Myron. So Myron Golden is another person that I listen to, and he
Okay.
teaches business from a biblical perspective, right?
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
yeah, so there's a lot of difference. I would say you could call it mentors or influences, right? Because I feel that we have to guard our minds, right? And also, you are what you think about, whether you like it or not, right? So I'm intentional about what I put in my head on a regular basis, right? So every morning I start with a plethora of these guys, like I'm listening to this or that or whatever, like as I'm starting my day before I deal with anything else, so that I'm already priming the pump basically mentally for what I need to do for that day.
Wow. I mean, Napo, that's there are so many golden nuggets here. I mean, just listening to you. I mean, there's some themes that I'm hearing when you mentioned every morning. I mean, that speaks to routine, right? So it sounds like there's a certain discipline there. But really, I'm struck by the diversity and humility, given the plethora of different sources. So you were it sounds like you're essentially open and very humble in terms of being willing to learn from so many different sources, because you mentioned the Myron Golden, the Eric Thomases, the Sand Gurus, and so on. So that's very impressive, because I've met some people who seem to be very just narrow-minded and not open to learning from different sources. Now, here's one thing I'd like us to just briefly talk about, because talking about this, people might not get a good sense of the success actually that you've had as an entrepreneur, and that's also one of the reasons why we're here, because people might be listening, you're talking about learning from such and such, but folks, Napo has actually accomplished uh, quite some significant outcome in our community, and he happens to be somebody who is um, I'd say a bit of a beacon in terms of entrepreneurship. So Napo, how about we just very rapidly maybe tell us about some of the businesses that you have. I know in your mind, with the humility that I know you to have, you like to downplay some of your accomplishment, but you've accomplished quite a while, in my sense. So what like would you mind just maybe sharing some of your businesses that
Yeah,
you have
so
going?
from a business standpoint, so I've been doing business, I guess, even as you know, I don't even know how long. Well, we talked about those other side things, but um, at one point I was just consulting and doing some, little websites and things like that on the side. Um, in I want to say what 2018,
Okay.
became a franchise owner with Hotworks. So we opened our first studio. I think it opened in 2019. Then the next one was right. It was 2021 because we had to shut down the other one for COVID. And then after that, we opened our third location in 2022. So right now, I have three Hotworks studios around the KD Houston area. And then in 2021, because I used to have a company, it was called GBC Solutions, where I was just doing like, custom software development and websites. And it was going and it was like, I was challenged a little bit to find the secret formula, right?
Okay.
And I had gotten to the point actually where I was tired of doing websites and things like that for people.
Okay.
Because it took too much time. People didn't know what they wanted, and it's like it became a hassle. Even though I could make money off of it, and I downplayed that a little bit as I started the Hotworks. Um, but then in 2021, um, I was like rebranding and said, all right, um, still have the aspirations to have my own organizations because with Hotworks, I'm doing that with business partners.
Okay.
So I started my consulting firm, Ghonda Legacy Investments, right? So, and the idea there is, well, it came because of the experiences that I had working and doing things with Hotworks, right? So as I was working and doing things for the franchise, there was a lot of gaps that needed to be filled, right? So sometimes you need somebody to text, sometimes you needed this, sometimes you needed that, right? So I found out a way that you could possibly piecemeal and be able to have leverage offshore resources, right, to fill the gaps for my business, right? But at the same time, I was still getting requests from people, oh, I need help with this or need help with that, and I was just like, no, I really don't have time because I had a lot going on. And from a business standpoint, I was like, okay, I can do the consulting and I can get that out. And initially, the idea really was to, with Ghonda Legacy Investments, leverage my skills to bring in capital, and the reason why it's called investment, so that as build capital, get capital, and take that to invest, right? So whether it's in land and properties and stuff like that. So it's the strategy is you help people and then you invest what you do, and the reason why it's is that want to do it for a long time. So initially I was like, okay, I really wanted to do SEO because that's my strength, right?
Okay.
Because I've done websites, I've done a bunch of things, and I felt SEO is the sweet spot for a few reasons. In that it allows us to, or allows me to work online and in tech still because that's my background. Because even from the corporate side, like I said, I got my degree in computer science. Then I worked at a startup developing custom software. Got brought to mattress firm. Helped with their IT department, built their first e-commerce site. Went over to Academy Sports and Outdoors as they were launching their site. As development manager, launched that development manager. Then from there, I went into SEO, and I really liked that because that was the sweet spot where I could be on the side of the business that's driving revenue,
Mhm.
right? Versus just being in IT and be considered a cost.
Okay.
But also now with SEO, because you create the stuff, you get it out, it's not an okay, hey, this is done, you have to deal with this, this is done, you have to deal with this. And part of the thing that really helped me, you know, think through that even when I was going through my career to make a shift is that because at one point at the academy, I was support manager, and hey, it's e-commerce, you have to be on 24/7, right? So when there's calls, you have to be on with offshore, we have to do this, you have to do that. And I remember one time my daughter's birthday, I'm in the room doing stuff. Oh, it's cake time. I come up, put the phone down for a little bit, for a picture, go right back, right? I'm
I
like,
got
okay,
you. Uh-huh.
right. And I'm like, okay, I can keep doing this, but do I want to do this?
Gotcha. Napo, let me interrupt you just one quick. That's very interesting what you're saying. But SEO, for those who might not know what that is, would you mind uh,
Yeah.
just talking about that?
SEO is it's search engine optimization. So
Okay,
basically,
optimization.
it's understanding Google and what Google does, and then helping businesses optimize their sites in order to help them show up better,
Ah,
right?
okay.
And that's why I felt it was kind of my sweet spot because even at that time, Google's coming out with Rank Brain and all that stuff, and I told you I was already into like robotics and artificial intelligence, and so now that allowed me to be in that sector a little bit more, but also with not as much of the pressure for e-commerce and being online because you're creating stuff but still in the technical space, but also being able to drive revenue for the business, right? So that's where I was like, okay, so this is good, and I like this lane. Um, but like I said, I started a consulting company, wanted to do just that, and initially it was a struggle.
Well, I can
So,
imagine. And some might say entrepreneurship is even more about
yeah, so you're talking about success. Initially, it was a struggle. Like,
right.
first year, I think the revenue
Mhm.
might have been maybe $4,000. But when you're saying I should talk about my successes, I think my labor cost last month was $12,000. So it's changed a little bit since
Since
you know.
that sort, yeah, that's like threefold. Well, Napo, let's stay with that theme. So, I mean, you're a computer scientist. You've worked with some major brands, academy,
Mm.
mattress firm. You've set up the e-commerce platform and so on, and then you jump into entrepreneurship. Now, I like how you talked about being involved with revenue generation or driving revenue as opposed to cost might have opened up a different set of eyes for you and
Mm.
help you identify that interest in generating revenue, driving revenue in business. Now, when you decided to finally pull the plug, right? Or let's say, actually looking back from that time, what would you say were some of the biggest challenges that you faced, and maybe what in your opinion, might be one of the biggest misconceptions that people might have when they see you as a successful entrepreneur or other entrepreneurs out there? So that's kind of like a
The
two-part
biggest
question.
challenges,
Hmm.
I guess, is gonna take more time and it's gonna cost more than you think.
Ah, that's right.
So yeah, so that's the realization, and but I think that's with anything, but you need to be tenacious about what you truly want.
Ah, tenacity. Okay.
So yeah, so that's part of the lessons in that, you know, it's not easy, and I'm trying to think, the opportunity isn't the problem,
Hmm.
right? And you can look at that many ways.
Okay.
So from a business standpoint, when you solve a problem for a client, right, they'll pay you.
Right.
But in business also, when there's challenges, when you look at it a certain way, sometimes that's where you'll also see the opportunity, right? So, for example, recently my team's been, I feel we're getting backlogged, we're getting behind on this and that. It's like, okay, so why is this happening? And what are we going to do about it? And it's like, oh, we're challenged because now with all the content creation, right? So many people want video content,
Okay.
and video content takes a lot more time to do than images and stuff like that, right? So since now in the last year or two, it's more and more video, more and more video. So people asking for more and more, and that takes more time. So now I'm like, okay, so for the things that we do, we actually have to start charging more now,
Hmm.
right? Because it could have been like, oh crap, my team is behind. No, it's like, okay, we have some challenges here, and I know my people are working hard, but we're behind. We have a bunch of overdue tasks and stuff like that. But now when I'm looking at it, okay, yes, we can. I added another person to help, but now if I'm by doing like I'm actually increasing the cost for my business, right?
Right.
But now I need to basically take a step to sit back and understand where is the opportunity here. It's really that there's a lot more demand for this particular service, and because there's a lot more demand for this particular service, I need to revisit my pricing models to make sure that I'm accounting for that demand, right?
Hmm.
But now looking at that, yes, I could have just said, no, this is a problem, right? But therein lies an opportunity because now it could increase the revenue for the business.
Huh. Wow. No, that's very inspirational. So, if I might look in a different way, so essentially, as opportunities arise, as opposed to turning around, running away the other way, just look at the opportunity within those problems, right? As challenges arise, rather, look at them as opportunity, and if you do, you'll find solution. That's amazing. So, given that, and I've heard tenacity, right? You mentioned tenacity as one of an essential skills here. Let's shift the conversation a little bit. The our show, though, the Global Pack, obviously has as a big audience people of African descent, what we call the Global Pack, the Global Pan African Community. So it's people who were born in Africa, people who were born in the United States of America and the Caribbean, that entire global Pan African population. Well, within that community, here in the United States, there seems to be sometimes apprehension when it comes to businesses on a large scale. like some of the challenges you've overcome, Napo, I am willing to say that there are not many people who look like you
Mhm.
in that sector. So you're in a sense making a way in a sector, the technology sector, the digital sector, where there's not many black people essentially. So let's look at that. I want you to look at your experience and maybe put yourself in the shoes or talking to a young African American who might be 18, 19, 20, or somebody who wants to get into entrepreneurship. What would you say is are some of the obstacle those that young man or young woman might be facing, and what do they need to prepare for being specifically a black person in the United States of America?
Um, First, don't believe the hype.
Don't believe the hype. Okay. What do you mean? Uh-huh.
I think that's what a Flavor Flav quote. So, because basically, I'm gonna start with don't believe the hype because society's gonna give you a particular message. Maybe your neighborhood's gonna give you a particular message that because you're from this neighborhood and because you look this way, these are the things that you are able to do. You
Mm.
know, is it sports? Is it music? Right?
Okay.
And that's usually it, right? So, and we are very capable of doing more, but the other piece is that sometimes your environment is also what's keeping you back,
Ah, okay.
right?
Do you mind elaborating a bit on that? What do you mean by the environment?
Because I've recently realized, right, a lot of things comes from the mindset,
Okay.
right? And like I said, even before with myself in my head, I put a certain message in my head every morning. If your environment is negative, or people say we can't do this, we can't do that, we're blaming this person, we're blaming that person versus doing for self, the environment may also be stifling your growth. So that's something to also consider.
Okay.
And actually, another quote that I heard, or actually, was today. Um,
Today's the fifth, February 5th. What is
yeah,
it?
so the quote says, when you chase a butterfly, it will run away. But if you build a garden, it will come to
Huh. I like that. What? Hold on. That's a golden nugget. When you chase a butterfly, it will run away. But when you build a garden, it will come to you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's
you.
how are we going to name it? Some napology or
I don't know.
uh,
So basically, it's like
uh-huh.
if you're chasing something, right?
Right.
Um, yeah, it might just be fleeting, right? If you're chasing money, you're chasing this, right? But if you build something of quality,
Right.
then the things that you want natural are going to come naturally, right? So just think through not just what you're doing, but also why you're doing what you're doing,
Mm.
right? 'Cause if you don't have a strong enough why, it really doesn't matter what you want to do, it's not going to happen.
A strong why. That sounds a bit like Simon Sinek or Simon Sinek. He has something about finding your
It,
why. Your why.
so Feynman Cynics says you start with why,
Mm.
but it's not just starting with why. Your why has to be strong enough to motivate you.
Aha.
Your why has to be strong enough to make you want to wake up at 4 or 5, 6 a.m. in the morning to make sure you're out there before your competitors so you can actually, get the business or do whatever it is that you need to do or work out or whatever it is, right? If the why isn't strong enough, you're not going to do the work,
Mm.
right? Because if somebody's why is just to pay bills, how motivating is that,
Right.
right?
And especially once you've paid them, then what? Right. Then how do
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
keep going? Uh-huh.
But if your why is for your grandkids to be trust fund babies, that's a totally different thing,
Right. Absolutely.
right?
Indeed.
Right? It's not just giving the money to somebody else, right? So you'll approach it very different, right? So going back to one, take the time to dream,
Okay.
but make sure that also it's not just a hope or want. It's it's not just a hope, but it's something that you truly want, right? Because or else you're not going to do the work to get there. You're going to be constantly disappointed. So
Wow, that's awesome. I've gotten four. Let's say this. I'm not putting apology. I'm being preached on here. So, why? Hey,
be careful what you ask for. So
hey, brother,
we're just getting started, Tony.
no,
So
bring it on. Bring it on. So what is the hype? Certainly don't believe the hype. And you mentioned about the environment,
yeah.
being cognizant of the environment in which we are. You talked about having that why, that strong why that will keep you going, and having a dream. Those are very inspirational, I would say, advices. So okay, so now we have all that in mind and we keep going, but yet seems still not to be many people like you and I in that environment. So, Napo, I'm just curious, in your opinion, do you think that representation of minorities, representation of Black people is that even really a necessity in your opinion in the technology sector as a whole, or is that just something that's blown out of proportion out
Um, there could always be more representation, but
there?
the way that I think about it is that even in business and when I do my own things, you have to build your own table.
Okay, build your own table.
Just build your own table and make it big enough so that even after everybody around you eats, you have a lot left over.
Mm, okay,
Right? So
okay.
now, so now if we want to see the certain people around, you build a big enough table and you bring people up to the table.
Okay. Build your own table. All right. Hey, well, I mean, you seem to be on your way to building that table, right? So
But
we
because the only thing that I can control is me,
gotcha.
right? I could want so many things, but at the same time, I could want to be, but if I'm going to put effort and energy into something,
Hmm.
the only thing that I can do is control this person here.
Gotcha.
So my mindset might be different than others, but that the way that I am. But I definitely feel that there should be more representation, but
Mm,
we know we live in a world that's not fair.
yeah.
We know that's the reality of the world, right? So, from my perspective, that's what I'm saying is that I feel that my responsibility
Hmm.
is to do the best for me and people around me.
Yeah. This is not the first time you've mentioned your interest in the well-being of people other than you, Napo, because you in the beginning of the conversation you talked about helping your team, helping people around you, and that theme seems to be very important with you. What why is that? Why are you? Why do you think that it's so important for you as you're succeeding to make sure that people around you are succeeding as well? That seems to be an important value to you. Well, why is that?
Because I feel that's how you win at life.
Ah, okay.
Because yes, I can control me, but life isn't about me. So, so I'm gonna ask you a question. So, who are you, Tony?
Well, turning the table on me, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you a question. Who are you?
Well, that is an interesting question. I would say, quite frankly, I am still trying to find myself because the thing is, I'm a constantly evolving human being.
Hmm.
That's what that has become, in my opinion, the only thing I'm quite sure about. From the
Right.
simple standpoint that if you looked at me right at different times in my life, you might have seen a totally different person from who you're seeing in front of you today.
Right.
And there used to be a time when I would resist a lot, try to cling on to maybe previous representation of myself. But I've come to the point where the
Hmm.
one thing I really believe in is evolving, and so there are sets of values that you cling on to, and I hope those values are important and universal things that will help me thrive. But beyond that, quite frankly, brother, it's I'm a constantly evolving
Well,
human being.
I'll keep going with the question. So, question: Are you a father?
I am indeed.
So, are you a husband?
I am.
Are you a son?
I certainly am.
So, with all those things, is that all about you?
it is not about me, and some of those things I'm still working on. When you say I'm a husband, hopefully I'm doing a good job. I still seem to be getting in
Right.
trouble more than I should, but yes, I am doing
But
my
all
best.
that in life is how we relate to others.
Aha,
That's why I say that's how you win in life,
there you go. How you
right?
relate to others.
Because that's at the end of the day, if you think about it,
Mhm.
it's all comes down to relationships. We could get scientific, but I'm not going to go there.
Right.
But everything is relative,
Everything is relative. Okay, yes. Gotcha.
right? Yeah, because you have to relate to something else in order for even for there to be any value.
Right. Nobody's an island of himself, as a matter of fact, right? We're a social being. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but that's where I feel, at least for me,
Mhm.
I guess I started to win more in life when I grew up and found out it wasn't about me. Or not found out, realized.
That it just
Right?
wasn't about you. Okay.
No, it isn't. But that's also the best way to take care of yourself by taking care of others. That's actually one of the most selfish things you can do.
Mm. Taking care of yourself by taking care of others.
The,
Gotcha.
the law of reciprocity.
Uh-huh.
When you give somebody a gift, what usually happens? Like if somebody who has a good heart, usually, right, they'll feel like they owe you, right? And it's the law of reciprocity, right? People like giving gifts, and then it's like, oh yeah, but they're like, oh yeah, this person took care of me, this person took care of me, right? So it's the law of reciprocity.
Mm.
Usually, naturally, right? We naturally take care of people who take care of us or do well with us.
Right.
So yes, there's always going to be bad apples. But if you love and take care of 100 people around you, hey, there might be, let's say, even 70 of those people that actually like you and want to take care of you too.
So then, Napo, is that isn't there a risk of maybe that being interpreted as a bit of selfishness in a sense?
That's
Not
what I
trying to
said.
go
It's the
in
most, it's the most selfish thing you can do.
right.
At the same time, you're being altruistic because you're actually taking care of people.
Mhm.
Because you have to really be genuine about wanting to help people and not worrying about yourself. And then you understand that, okay, by me doing all these things, self is going to take care of it. If you do what you can for yourself, yeah, like I work out, I do this, eat well, like I do all the things I need to do for myself. But then, yeah, you also take the time to take care of the people around you. And then you build a better environment. And then if you think about it, right, you usually enjoy life better.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Napo and myself, we have a tendency. We can go and talk about philosophical truth and
Yes, exactly. We're getting deep there. I was like,
conviction. So you all have a window into the deep thought, the deep thinking individual that Napo is, and which is why I enjoy
yes.
talking to him so
Mhm.
much. Always has great insight. But I'm looking at the time. Unfortunately, we kind of have to get to the towards the end of our conversation. We could go
Yeah.
on, and this is certainly not the first time Napo. I mean, we've just started. It looks like we will need to get back and
Do a follow. You
follow.
want to talk about some of these things?
Right, that's
I
fine.
don't know how far down the rabbit hole you want to go.
No, we'll make one about life. How about that? About life and the philosophy of
Yeah.
life. So let's, as we conclude, maybe spend some time in terms of a bit of a reflection here. I mean, you talked
Mhm.
about having your why in terms of being motivated and so on. Uh, so as you are looking into this, say you're at the end of your life, what do you want your impact to have been on this life? What sort of impact do you want to leave behind when it's all said and done and your businesses are successful and so on, even more successful than they are now?
Mhm.
So what would be
To,
the
uh,
impact that you hope you would have left on
to
this
these
earth?
people better than I found them.
Okay.
Um, good, I guess you can say a good legacy. So first of all, yes, want to take care of my family, make sure that they can get to the point that they can live life on their own terms,
Okay.
be able to, with the businesses and stuff, build systems that can help people become the best version of themselves.
Love it. live systems that can help you to become the best version of themselves. Okay.
Yeah, because I think that's the biggest challenge with a lot of people. Going back to the question that you were asking, right? The young African American, what would they do? Um, I say you start mindset, skill set, tool set, then you become an asset.
Yeah. To come again?
Yeah.
You have to say that again. Wow.
So
Uh-huh.
mindset,
Uh-huh.
skill set, tool set,
Mm.
then you become an asset.
Wow. Okay. Mindset, skill set, tool set. Then you become an asset. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if that is not some apology right there, I don't know. I don't know what else would be. Okay. Well, thank you very much, and I think you're way on your way. On a very serious note, I know you and I
Mhm.
like laughing a lot, but I can definitely see how you would leave the world a better place than how you found it. How you definitely setting a fantastic path for your family, but not just your family, the community as a whole. So just to close here, maybe two more things rapidly, Napo, because we're running short of
Mhm.
time. The first one is there. What would you say is the most exciting? Was there something very exciting that's coming up for you? Any project that you're really excited that you feel like
Yeah, so we have
share
a
with
few
us?
projects that are coming out. So we have a new marketplace that's going to be coming out here shortly for the African community. So be on the lookout for that. Also working on a social platform that's going to be coming. So yeah, we have a lot of things in the work for our African brothers and sisters, but also, like I said, building systems and building ways for people to grow is something that I'm looking to invest in and that we've talked about. And once, I feel that I've cracked the code,
Okay.
then we start to open that up to have other people to really lock in and tap in and really grow to live their best life.
That's awesome. And so, if people wanted to follow your journey or connect with you, how would they do that? Any
I think
information?
probably Instagram would
Okay.
be the best place. So Napo GH. So
Okay.
the GH is silent, so just Napo. So,
So Napo
so,
is
so
NAPO,
yeah,
NAPOGH. Okay.
exactly. NAPOGH. And that'll be the way you can find me on Instagram. So that'll be the easiest way.
Got it. All right. Well, on that note, Napo, I will give you the last word to close this very first Global Pack live podcast interview. So I'll give you the honors. What final words do you have for us?
Well, it's always good to dream, right? But it's nothing without action, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, you need to make sure that you're taking the actions that'll help to make your dreams come true.
There you have it. It's always good to dream, but it is nothing but without action. Napo, once again, thank you very much for giving us the time and coming on this show tonight.
All right. Thank you, brother.
You got it. All right, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This was Napo joining us today, and thank you very much for tuning in. Remember to subscribe to the channel, share, and help this community grow. On that note, remember we are a beautiful people, we're a strong people, we're a capable people, and very special people. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And we are the Global Pack. Thank you very much.